Lastly, we could do some Shakespeare. Thou, nature, art my goddess. To thy law, my services are bound. Wherefore should I stand in the plague of custom and admit the curiosity of nations to deprive me? For that I am some 12 or 14 moonshot. Randy, turn the fucking thing off. You're embarrassing yourself, boy.
Tragedies are like train wrecks, and it's hard to look away from a train wreck. But what is it about watching tragedies unfold that makes them so captivating? Well, there's certainly a biological component to it where, over the span of human history, watching a disaster unfold in front of us activates a fight or flight response in our brains that forces us to analyze whether the thing we're staring at is an immediate threat. When we watch tragedies from a safe distance, like from behind a screen, that same fight or flight mechanism is still active, but it manifests differently. Instead of running or fighting, we analyze. We project ourselves onto the screen and into the plot of the story, and we ask ourselves questions like, what would I do in that situation? Would I survive that? Would I have made the same choice?
Oh my god, he's gonna do it, dude. Holy shit, it's ass-kissing time, man, right on.
Would I have eaten those 9 cans of ravioli?
I mean, nobody wants to admit to eat 9 cans of ravioli, but I did, and I'm ashamed of myself.
And those questions that we ask ourselves are what make tragedies so compelling, especially when we can relate to a character on the screen.
Next message.
Hey Julian, it's Ricky. Just letting you know that I'm single now. I could really use a friend, so if you want to stop by and get drunk, I'll be sleeping in my car in my dad's driveway. See ya.
A tragedy is defined as a story with an unhappy ending, but as we all know, the ending to a story is just that, the meat of the story. The plot, which Aristotle once called the soul of a tragedy, the build-up, the character development, and the moments before the fall are what determine a successful dramatic narrative.
I can't believe Officer Dicklock's in here. Lucy handcuffed to the shower.
Ricky, what are you doing here?
Equally as important to these elements are the choices that a character is presented with.
Choice number 1, clean up those fucking hot dogs. Or choice number 2, slap the shit out of you in front of Barbara.
It's the decisions that they make or fail to make that can set them on a path toward destruction.
Ah, fuck! I'm fucking shot! Get over here!
Get the hell out of my trailer with that gun!
Maybe you identify with the character on the screen because you've been presented with a similar choice in the past, and maybe you chose differently than they did, and there may be that lingering thought in the back of your mind that asks you, what would my fate have been if I had just made a different decision?
Well, I've been out of jail for a week now, and it's time for me to make some important decisions in my life. I'm gonna go to community college.
Please stop, Frank. I'm trying to sleep here.
I'm either gonna become an electrician, a meat cutter, or I'm gonna get into television and radio broadcasting.
But how much of our fate is actually determined by the choices that we make versus the ones that we don't? Or better yet, by the things that are completely outside of our control? This question is at the heart of the world's oldest religions. It has been wrestled with by history's greatest philosophers, and it is something that every one of us has to grapple with personally.
It's where Calvin got his, and I'm a Calvinist. I mean, when it comes to love, see, like Tammy was my love. See, I was graced by love. See? And I hope and pray that Ricky is. I think he is. But see, if he's not, God bless his soul. There's nothing he can do about it. That's predestination. Now, some people might think that that's awfully cruel.
Dad?
But that's life.
What in the fuck are you talking
Just
about?
give me a second here. I'm just trying to explain what... I'm talking about predestination, for Christ's sake. You know, predestination, love, grace, Calvin. Come on, man, you know.
Humans have spent the last several thousand years or so turning this question and the feelings associated with it into the art form that we know today as tragedy. And luckily, we've had a lot of time to refine and reinterpret how we construct tragic narratives. Like Isaac Newton once wrote, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." From Euripides and the early Greek tragedians to William Shakespeare, each generation of writers has inherited tragedy, constructed or deconstructed its essential elements, and handed it to the next generation of writers, continuing to build a craft that centuries later, a Canadian mockumentary sitcom about 3 guys who keep going to jail could use to say something profound about free will, fate, and the choices that define us.
Plato's the smartest man that ever lived. He said it's okay to lie if it truly benefits the cause of the people. Tucker called it the noble lie. So you have to lie to Lucy, Julian.
One thing I should clarify is that when one thinks of tragedy, one may automatically associate sadness, but in many cases, tragedies often have a humorous element to them, and Trailer Park Boys is no exception. Structurally, the show borrows from both Greek and Shakespearean traditions, and understanding the difference between those two traditions is key to understanding what Trailer Park Boys is trying to do. In a Greek tragedy, the hero, who is usually a nobleman, a king, or a demigod, begins the story at the height of power and status. This hero has a fatal flaw, which they called a hamartia, that he's often entirely blind to. That flaw drives the hero toward peripeteia, known as the reversal, the moment where fortune turns, and from there, his downfall, where destruction and death are inevitable. Greek tragedies were not particularly interested in whether the hero could have made a different choice because their fate is already decided. The audience's job was not to wonder what would happen because the audience is actually told what is going to happen beforehand before any of the characters even know.
The fuck? Who's fucking with me?
By structuring the plot this way, the audience gets to feel the weight and anticipation of knowing exactly what's going to happen.
I'm never ever going back to jail again, okay? And I've got a plan to make money here. I think it's perfect.
Shakespeare inherited this structure and rebuilt some of its fundamental elements, particularly around choice. His tragedies still have the fatal flaw, still have the reversal of fortune, and still end in destruction and death, but Shakespeare was obsessed with agency, with the specific choices his characters make and the moments where they could turn back but don't.
Oh my God, Ricky, what have you done now?
Equally as important to Shakespeare's dramatic narratives is the way that the hero's choices and downfall will impact the other characters in the story. The supporting characters matter in Shakespeare's plays in a way that they don't in Greek tragedies because we're deliberately shown their thoughts and subsequent fates in focus as it relates to the hero's story.
No one considers how we feel about all of this, like how we feel about any of it. Like, we don't want things to go downhill. We don't want to lose our friends. We don't want to lose our family. And this is all we got.
Trailer Park Boys sits somewhere between these two traditions and often borrows from both throughout the seasons, but it diverges from each in ways that are just as important as the similarities. The most obvious difference is that in Greek and Shakespearean tragedies, the hero usually dies at the end, whereas in Trailer Park Boys, no one dies, but they do end up in jail. Equally significant is where the characters begin their journeys. In Greek and Shakespearean tradition, heroes begin their journey at the top of status, usually a king or a nobleman, and the tragedy is the turn of fortune and subsequently the fall from grace. The characters of Trailer Park Boys are none of these things, and though they may sometimes hold positions of power, they are mostly just ordinary people. Where they do have similarities, on the other hand, are in the presence of the hamartia or the fatal flaw. As we've explored in the previous videos, Julian's fatal flaws is alcoholism, his ambition, and his association with Ricky.
All right, I'm gonna untie you, and you're not gonna call the police. He's just a big fan. He made a mistake. This isn't kidnapping. I'm sorry, man. Like, are we cool or what?
Ricky's fatal flaw is his apathy towards education, his wrath, and his lack of self-awareness.
Julian, you can't worry about that stuff, man. All the credit cards are maxed out in your name. I threw them in the fucking lake. I can't trace that shit back to you. Don't worry about it. Come on, buddy.
Do you realize how stupid you just sounded there, Ricky?
And Bubbles' fatal flaws are his unresolved abandonment issues and inability to meaningfully distance himself from Ricky and Julian's criminal activities.
Oh, I knew it was only a matter of time before my cart business and Ricky and Julian's dope business collided, so the day's here, finally.
The peripeteia, or the reversal of fortune, is still present, although the traditional narratives focus on the hero's fortune going from good to bad. In Trailer Park Boys, their fortune goes from bad to worse, which is still meaningfully different in my view. Now, where I think the show forms its most interesting commentary is in the relationship between agency and fate, as it regularly toes the line between both classical narratives. On the one hand, we're shown directly how each character's choices, whether they're made under pressure, under the influence, or purely out of self-interest, will eventually come back to haunt them and damage not just themselves, but everybody else around them. On the other hand, those choices are never made in a vacuum. They are made by people with limited options, under pressure from forces they can't fully see or control. The show holds both of these to be true and doesn't try to resolve the tension between them, sometimes even betraying our expectations.
Maybe this is fate telling you what to do. You want to go visit Lucy in jail, or maybe you want to come with me to the liquor store?
I want to go with you to the liquor store.
Season 5, in my view, beautifully captures the tension between both narratives. This is a season where I think everybody brought their absolute best, all the way from the screenwriters down to the individual cast members. It was just peak television.
Who the fuck is looking after the hash, boys?
Our grandmother.
Get the fuck in there and look after the hash. Jesus. Sorry, Cyrus.
In this season, the boys are in possession of large quantities of hash that they've stolen from Cyrus and his gang in an earlier episode. In trying to figure out how to hide this felonious quantity of drugs, Julian comes up with the idea to hide it out in the open, so they decide to convert it into a driveway in front of Ray's trailer. This driveway will become an important financial asset that the boys will share an equal stake in.
Me, him, and you, we split it 50-50-50. It's the only one I'm fucking in.
Fine, but I'm in charge, all right? You guys gotta back me up.
Julian clarifies that he's in charge of the operations and therefore the executive decision maker of how the hash will be distributed. This is the setup that governs the tension between the boys and subsequently the show's antagonist, Jim Lahey. Mr. Lahey, who was played by the late great Canadian actor John Dunsworth, develops his role this season as a sort of puppet master, almost envisioning each character in the show being attached to strings that he can pull on to get their reactions.
Why'd you let them go, Mr. Lahey?
Because they're my little shit puppets, Randy, performing in our shit play.
I don't understand, sir.
You will, Rand. You will.
Mr. Lahey here is reminiscent of one of Shakespeare's greatest villains, Iago from the play Othello, a man who doesn't just want to defeat his enemies, but wants to dismantle them from within by exploiting their psychological triggers. Even the way that we're introduced to both characters is eerily similar.
Sir, content you. I follow him to serve my turn upon him. We cannot all be masters, nor all masters cannot be truly followed. You shall mark. Heaven is my judge, not I, for love and duty, but seeming so for my peculiar end. I am not what I am.
Just as Iago announces himself to the audience with the words, "I am not what I am," we are introduced to Lahey this season in largely the same way, a man performing a version of himself that doesn't exist. At the start of the season, Mr. Lahey is out of the mental hospital where he was being held for his actions in the previous season, and we're initially led to believe that he wants to make right by the boys and bury the hatchet, even telling everybody, including us, that he has given up on the liquor.
I've been off alcohol for about a month, and I'm looking forward to introducing the new Jim Lahey to the boys, the gentle Jim Lahey.
In reality, though, he's been drawing up a plan to get revenge all along.
Looks like somebody named Ricky pretending to be a vocational school student when he's really a vocational school janitor.
Julian is initially skeptical of Mr. Lahey's nice guy routine, but will eventually be manipulated into making bad decisions by using the thing that's closest to his heart.
Don't think for a second you're keeping that trailer, Jim.
Actually, Julian, we bought that trailer so no one else would. I'll sell it back to you for what we paid for it, plus an administration fee, $7,200 total. We're trying to do you a favor, bud.
Mr. Lahey?
Now, Lahey is relatively quiet for the first few episodes, which is usually a sign that he has something cooking up. In the times that we are shown what he's up to, it will usually be private conversations between him and Randy, who is concerned about Lahey's sobriety.
Well, you gotta take it, Mr. Lahey. You don't want to get back on the rye again. Remember what that was like?
Well, it's a little bit stressful, you know. I mean, Mr. Lahey's been doing really good. He hasn't had a drink since the day that he tried to kill Ricky, and he had about 49 drinks that day. But lately, you know, he's been talking about liquor and calling me about Bandy, which he normally only does when he's drunk. So, just the thought of him drinking again, it scares the shit out of me.
It isn't until episode 5, ironically titled Jim Lahey is a Drunk and Always Will Be, that the show pulls back the curtain and shows us what Lahey has been doing behind the scenes. This mask-off moment is triggered in part by Ray, who has revealed to everybody that Lahey has been drinking the whole time he has claimed to be sober.
Oh, I want some of Jimmy's water. That's the kind that gets you fucking drunk, isn't that right, Jimmy?
He walks around the park, he's got the bottle of water, everybody thinks it's water, but it's vodka. It's the oldest trick in the book. I think he learned that from me. I was doing that when I was, 20, 30 years ago, trying to hide it from Tammy.
Huh? You guys can argue about who's drunk and who's not away from my daughter? Please?
Now that his cover's blown, Lahey stops pretending to be something he's not and steps fully into what he actually is.
Julian's the leader. All he needs to do is be pointed in a certain direction. He'll go there. He'll go right into my shit snare, Randy.
Liquor makes me see a clear end. I didn't want you to blow my cover. I'm sorry if I let you down.
Didn't let me down, Mr. Lahey.
Is that some kind of test?
No. I hate those guys, Mr. Lahey. Let's fucking get them. Here.
Now that the mask is fully off, Lahey, who's in possession of Julian's grandmother's trailer, puts it on the market at a premium price after telling Julian that he would sell it to him for what he paid for it.
Was Lahey?
Julian, I just thought I'd let you know, put a for sale sign up in the old homestead. It's on the market, bud.
You're not gonna do this to me, Lahey. Listen, I'm gonna have the money real soon here, bud.
Lahey tells him that there's significant interest from other buyers even at the current asking price. He's essentially pressuring Julian to act quickly because Lahey knows that putting this pressure on Julian will make him break the law out of desperation, and he just hopes to be there to catch him in the act.
Listen, at the price I'm asking, no one in their right mind's gonna buy it. Julian is never gonna let his grandmother's trailer be sold on the open market. We keep raising the price, Julian's gonna have to raise more money to buy it, and the only way Julian can raise money is breaking the law, Randy. Breaking it. The law, Randy. Breaking the law.
This little bit of urgency that Lahey puts under Julian erodes his better judgment and allows himself to be manipulated by a man whose intentions he didn't even trust at the beginning of the season.
I don't think so, Jim.
Meanwhile, Ricky's father Ray is arrested for defrauding the government after a video emerges of him on his feet being filmed for one of J-Rock's porn flicks.
Dad, your legs must be fucking killing you, aren't they? Get back in your chair, buddy. Help me, buddy. See, you can't walk.
Can you guess how the police obtained the footage of Ray on his feet?
We don't have to call the cops, Randy. Who pays Ray's disability?
Workers' comp?
What happens if we call workers' comp, Randy?
They'll call the cops.
So Ray is taken to jail and Ricky set on bailing him out. Only problem is he doesn't actually have any money to do so. He wants to sell small portions of the hash driveway on his own to raise the money needed to get his dad out of jail. But Julian refuses to let him do so, choosing instead to come up with a more elaborate plan, one that involves Ricky going to vocational school to sell hash to the students there. In order to get Ricky on board, Julian manipulates his biggest insecurity, telling Ricky to think about how proud his family will be to see him back in school.
Think about this. Think about your daughter. Think about Lucy. They're gonna be impressed with you, Ricky. They're gonna be so fucking proud of you, man. Come on, let's go. Julian, this brain barely got through fucking grade 7.
Julian is now doing some manipulating of his own at the expense of his best friend Ricky, while also being manipulated himself by Mr. Lahey. At this point, Julian decides to tell a number of consequential lies and make some very avoidable errors that will affect the overall trajectory of the season. First, Julian decides to visit Ray in jail and lies to him about their financial situation, telling him he will have to be in there a little bit longer to give him enough time to raise money for his bond. Bubbles confronts him about this, and Julian is honest about his plans with him, but decides to keep Ricky in the dark.
You know, we're really leaving Ray in there?
Bubs, I need to get my grandmother's old trailer back, buddy. He's stupid enough to get caught, he can do another month. What the fuck?
What about Cyrus, though? I mean...
Bubs, they're gonna be in there for 3 or 4 years. Fuck those guys, all right?
After the visit in jail, the boys go to Ricky's school in the middle of the night and distribute some of the hash to the students, earning them some pretty good money. The plan is cut short after Ricky discharges his pistol in the school's bathroom, believing he had just had a supernatural encounter.
What the fuck is up here, man? What are you shooting at? What's going on in here? Winds of shit, buddy. The winds of shit? Yes.
The next morning, Julian informs the boys that they actually raised a good amount of money, and Ricky's hopeful that it will be enough to get his dad out of jail. Julian lies to Ricky and tells him that Ray actually wants to stay in jail a little bit longer.
Good enough to bail the old man out now, buddy.
I was talking to Ray, Rick, and he doesn't want to get out yet.
What?
Yeah, he's in some kind of stop gambling program or something. Wants to stay in for another week. He's having a great fucking time, though, man.
Really?
While deceiving his friend Ricky, Julian simultaneously makes the mistake of entrusting him with some of the hash money, telling him they'll use the shitmobile as a safe. Ricky lets his guard down after getting a little bit of money and starts to act recklessly with it, spending it on liquor and leaving open bottles in his car. At one point, his daughter Trinity asks for permission to use his car to go to the store with her friend, and Ricky allows her to do so. leading to the arrest of both Trinity and her mother, Lucy. The police also impound his car, and he tells us the contents of his trunk, which they were using as a safe.
My big concern is there's 12 pounds of hash in the trunk and a bunch of our money, and I have no idea how we're gonna get that the fuck out of the impound, but I guess we'll figure it out.
Ricky is now under even more pressure than before, as now his father, his daughter, and his ex are all in jail while he has no car and has lost a great deal of money and product. By next morning, the entire operation begins to fall apart very quickly. Julian tells Bubbles that they would not be posting Ray's bail that day and tasks him with helping retrieve Ricky's car out of impound and delivering the bad news to Ray, all while Ricky is distracted with getting Trinity and Lucy out of jail. With all of them now preoccupied, Julian makes another crucial mistake. He leaves their most valuable asset, the hash driveway, under the supervision of Corey and Trevor, who are almost immediately tricked by Randy into going to Lahey's trailer.
Dude, we can't go over there, man.
Come on, let's just go play for 20 minutes, Corey.
No, Julian said we have to wash the driveway. Keep an eye on Lahey, play video games, and get drunk all at the same time. Thank you very much, dude.
I'll always be thinking.
After Julian and Bubbles get Ricky's car out of impound, Julian mistakenly gives Lahey $7,500 as a down payment for his grandmother's trailer. Lahey lies to Julian again and tells him that he needs the rest of the money before the end of the day because somebody has already made the full offer. Julian does not know that the money he gives to Lahey will actually be used against him.
Oh, one thing though. I need to have the rest of the money by the end of the day, or there's no deal. There's a lot of interest in the mobile, Julian. Someone should come by tomorrow with the full purchase price I'd have to accept now, wouldn't I? It's really impressive, though, boy. I guess I should be proud of you.
Once Julian leaves, Lahey manipulates Trevor into revealing everything that he knows about the hash driveway, including the fact that it was stolen from Cyrus.
I'm not in trouble.
Big trouble in the park. Big secret.
What are you talking about, Mr. Lahey?
Look, Trev, I'm on a fishing expedition here. Give me a hand, will you?
You know about the hash driveway?
Holy shit, hash driveway. We know about the hash driveway, Randy.
Yeah, we knew about that.
Over at Ray's trailer.
With the truth now revealed, Lahey's plan will now take a much darker turn that goes beyond simply just putting the boys in jail.
I got $100 here for groceries. I got $1,400 here for liquor. And I got $6,000 for you to go and bail out a couple of shit puppets. We need a few more shit puppets for our play, Randy, and they gotta be angry shit puppets. And you gotta make them angry. You say whatever it takes to get them angry, but they're not angry at us, Randy. Shit puppets are supposed to be angry at other shit puppets. Take the bus.
Listen, Mr. Lahey, they could kill one another.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, but we can't be involved with murder.
Exactly, Randy.
Mr. Lahey, is this you talking or the liquor?
Randy. I am the liquor.
Bubbles now returns to the park after delivering the bad news to Ray and tells Julian that Ray got jumped by Cyrus's gang and that he'd be calling Ricky to inform him of what Julian had done. Ricky finds out about it through Lucy, who is the first to answer Ray's call. Julian and Bubbles also find out that Lahey now knows about the hash driveway because of Trevor, who immediately blames it on Corey.
Corey told him about the hash driveway.
You what?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
What are you talking about? She said that.
You're suspended for 1 month. Both of you, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
Come on, Julian.
Get out of here.
Can we still
That's
hang
2
out?
months.
Why?
3 months. Get the fuck out of here.
Now very upset after learning the truth, Ricky tells Julian and Bubbles that he's done with them and wants nothing to do with their operation. Ricky finds the recently fired Corey and Trevor, who are off fighting each other somewhere in the park, and employs him to help him steal the hash from Julian and Bubbles. A confrontation between them now ensues, which is diffused by Bubbles, who delivers a speech that ultimately gets the boys to settle their beef.
Boys, I'm gonna have a fucking meltdown here. We've got a ton of hash here that we could all go to jail for a long time. You guys are fucking fighting over stupid stuff. Now, I fucking did this because you guys wanted me to, and I didn't want to, but you guys are the only family I have in the world, and I fucking wanted to help you.
As they're preparing to move the hash, J-Rock and T arrive back at Sunnyvale now from jail and tell them that Randy has posted bail for Cyrus and his crew using the $7,500 that Julian gave to Lahey. Predicting that they will now have a gunfight on their hands, Julian makes yet another crucial mistake. He arms Corey and Trevor, each with a gun and radio, and entrusts them to watch over them as they try to deal with Cyrus diplomatically.
Julian, this is a pirate's gun.
Oh, Trevor, that makes you Long John Dickweed then, I guess.
Cyrus and his crew now arrive at Sunnyvale and confront the boys about the hash. Julian starts to sweet-talk Cyrus and apologizes to him for what they did, which actually does seem to work. They give him back all of the hash and tell him that this was all an elaborate plot designed by Lahey to get them to fight each other. As Cyrus and his crew are walking away, Bubbles tells the boys to radio Corey and Trevor and tell them not to shoot at them. There is some interference over the radio, and Corey mistakenly believes that they instructed them to take a shot. He does.
I heard it. It's
I
not
heard
what he
it
said.
too, man. He said, take the shot. I
You're
heard him say,
wrong.
take the fucking shot.
You're
I don't
wrong.
care if I'm wrong. You're fucking up, and I'm not fucking this up. Someone's gonna get killed, dude. I'm taking the shot. Excuse me.
You should be a fucking blonde.
Yeah.
A gunfight now ensues between both crews, leading Ricky to suffer a full-blown heart attack under the stress of gunfire.
You gotta look after Trinity, buddy.
Ricky, don't say things like that. You're gonna be fine. Don't talk
You can share the
foolish.
car and just make sure she checks the transmission fluid.
He dies on the ground behind his car while Bubbles is looking after him. Julian runs out to find Mr. Lahey and snaps him out of his evil spell by begging him to help him bring Ricky back to life.
Officer Lahey, you're the only man that can take care of this situation.
Cover me, boy.
Lahey agrees, and Julian and Randy provide cover fire for him to safely get to Ricky's position. Once Lahey arrives, Bubbles informs him that Ricky has stopped breathing for about 6 minutes, and Lahey tells him that this is far too long for a brain to be without oxygen. Bubbles tells Lahey that it's possible that Ricky will be okay, as his brain probably uses less oxygen than most regular brains do. Lahey performs CPR on him and brings him back to life.
Ricky, you're all right? Sit up. Oh my God, he's alive.
When the police finally arrive, they arrest Cyrus and his gang. Ricky takes the fall for a gun that the police find lying on the ground. They arrest both he and Julian, along with Corey and Trevor as well. Season 5 ends where the audience expected it to, which itself is part of the point. We are not surprised when Ricky and Julian go back to jail because we've been conditioned to expect this outcome in each of the previous seasons. But it is worth reflecting on what the ending actually looks like when you account for all the other characters. Bubbles is alone yet again, left to fend for himself. Corey and Trevor, who were manipulated into every decision that led to the gunfight, are in jail now with bullet wounds. And Trinity is once again left without her father. What's left in the rubble is the audience's memory of every decision that led to these final moments. By the end of Season 5, the show does not offer a clean answer on whether the outcome was a result of bad choices or inevitable fate. Instead, it demonstrates that the question itself is the wrong one to ask. Every situation in that season is simultaneously chosen but also inevitable. Julian's lies and decisions are his own, but the pressures that produced them was Lahey working behind the scenes, trying to get revenge on the boys for things that happened in the past. It's all a series of deceptions and bad decisions, one after another, cascading towards the inevitable downfall. Even the radio interference that started the gunfight was really nobody's fault at all, just another thing that went wrong.
I got shot, dude.
Shut the fuck up, you wussies. I was dead. You got shot. Big deal. You should call a ambulance.
Greek tragedy says the end was written before the story started. Shakespearean tragedy says the characters wrote it themselves. Trailer Park Boys says both of these are true, and this contradiction is where the human experience operates. We will never really know for certain. Most surprising in all this is Lahey's role in the end, as he's the only person that comes out of this a hero. Despite almost being an accessory to murder, he's awarded the Medal of Bravery by the police department for saving Ricky's life, a big turnaround from the previous 2 seasons where he ends up in jail or in the mental hospital. But that medal also reveals something that a surface reading of Lahey tends to miss, because the man who saved Ricky's life and the man who tried to have him killed are not 2 different people. It's the same person on the same day, and understanding how that's possible, understanding what Lahey actually is beneath the vendetta and the drinking and the shit metaphors is where Trailer Park Boys develops its commentary on tragedy and the cost of being unable to move on from one's past.
How am I then a villain? Well, this advice is free, I give, and honest. Probable to thinking, and indeed, the course to win the Moor again. His soul is so enfettered to Desdemona's love that she can make, do what she list, even as her appetite shall play the god with his weak function. How am I then a villain, to counsel Cassio to this parallel course directed to his good? Divinity of hell. When devils will the blackest sins put on, they do suggest at first with heavenly shows, as I do now, for whilst this honest fool plies Desdemona to repair his fortunes, and she for him pleads strongly to the Moor, I'll pour this pestilence into his ear, that she repeals him for her body's lust, and by how much she strives to do him good, she shall undo her credit with the Moor. So will I turn her virtue into pitch, and out of her own goodness make the net that shall enmesh them all.
And yet, for all of the ways that Lahey mirrors Iago this season, there is one moment where the comparison quietly falls apart. When Julian finds him after the gunfire breaks out, something changed within. The villain who spent the entire season pulling strings, who bailed out Cyrus with Julian's own money, who helped put all of Ricky's family in jail, that man, Jim Lahey, set all of it down and walked into a hail of gunfire to save the life of the person that he spent the whole season trying to destroy. Iago never does that. Iago burns everything down and feels no remorse because for him, the destruction was always the point. But for Lahey, in this one key moment, does something that no straightforward villain could do. He chooses the person over the vendetta.
It's a real honor, ladies and gentlemen, and a real pleasure. Thank you. You know, when someone needs your help, you have to help them in any way you can. No matter what color they are, no matter what country they live in, and no matter what state you're in. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I'll never betray your trust. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Mr. Lahey.
See you in a minute.
Jim Lahey is not the villain of Trailer Park Boys. He's its most tragic figure, and his story, unlike Ricky and Julian's, began long before the first episode ever started.
I was a police officer, but that was a long time ago. I don't want to get into the details, but it simply came down to two choices, so I resigned.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for watching part 3 of the Hidden Hearts of Trailer Park Boys series. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and giving it a like. Let me know which part of the video you enjoyed down in the comments section. I do try to read them all even if I don't always respond. Thanks again.